Greetings, YouTube. Welcome to my corner of the internet, where I am uploading my very first YouTube video. We'll see if it makes it onto YouTube. If they have any kind of quality control team, they may not allow this video to surface and tarnish their platform. But with that being said, here it goes. My first video. I'm making this somewhat as a vlog, and I'll explain why here in a minute. And at the end of the video, I'll explain what I plan to do with future videos. The purpose of this video is to share news for those who have not yet heard the news. This will also be a video for others, but also for myself, to think through things that are difficult to think through in conversation with others. With that being said, I'll get to the news. In about 5 weeks, my unborn son will most likely die. We have learned that my wife, who is pregnant, is carrying our boy, and he has a life-limiting diagnosis known as trisomy 18. You may have heard of trisomy 21 before, which is called Down syndrome, and that's where there is a third chromosome that binds to the 21st pair of chromosomes, and that leads to consistent abnormalities in people with Down syndrome. Well, the third chromosome can also bind on to other pairs of chromosomes, such as the 18th pair or the 13th pair. My son has a diagnosis that is confirmed that every cell in his body has a third chromosome, and that third chromosome is attached to his 18th pair of chromosomes. And that, like Down syndrome, leads to consistent abnormalities in the baby. A very common early sign is the thickness of the baby's spinal cord. When my wife and I went in for our first ultrasound, we watched the doctor measure his thickness of his spinal cord multiple times, and we thought it was strange, and they explained to us why later. But as the baby grows, his hands will form inward like a cradle. His feet will bow in. It's very common for the heart to not form properly. The shape of the head forms abnormally. There is a recessed chin, a cleft lip, and all other kinds of things that vary from baby to baby, but there are some consistencies. So we found out we were pregnant early on. We got the ultrasound, and originally the doctors thought that maybe this could potentially be a sign of Down syndrome. And that was a shock to us, and we were processing in our minds, okay, what if this is a baby with Down syndrome? That'll change everything. It'll change a lot of our lives. And that was kind of a shock, but we didn't overreact too much. We just knew to proceed with testing. And we got a genetic screening test done, and it came back positive for trisomy 18. And that was the first moment of despair that I feel like I have endured in quite some time. I went out on my back porch into my yard and I cried. And a week went by where, it was a weekend actually, just a few days, where we thought, okay, it's for sure our son has trisomy 18. However, we get a call from the doctor that explains, hey, while the test did come back positive, it could be not a false positive, but there's only an 8% chance that it's a positive. If you've ever taken statistics before, then you would know what the term PPV means. But if you're a normie like me, then you don't. PPV means percentage positive value. So given all the range of factors true of Ashley and I, and given the testing like that they took from Ashley's blood, all of those factors point to about an 8% chance that our son would have trisomy 18. But in this test, they describe it as it's 98% accurate. And so I'm trying to square these two numbers of how can something be 98% accurate, but it's only an 8% likelihood. The way that I ration or reason that out is that if your baby in your womb does in fact have trisomy 18, it will catch it 98% of the time. But that doesn't mean, just because it says yes, it doesn't mean you're one of those. So I took this news as, wow, this is good news. There's only an 8% chance that Arsena is trisomy 18. And so for the next week, I was very positive. It was then that we went in for another ultrasound, and we were starting to see more and more signs, and they recommended we do an amniocentesis. An amniocentesis is when they insert a needle into the womb of the mother and extract fluid from the placenta and directly test the fluid of the placenta. And the placenta will also have the same chromosomal makeup as the baby. And so they test it, and it does come back positive for trisomy 18. That kind of test is not a screening test like I just described, which involves percentages of possibilities. That test is binary. It is yes or it is no. It is 0 or it is 1. And that test came back 1, positive. And since then, I've not known how to feel. I've not known how to think. I've not known how to describe it to others. And the reason I'm making this video is to help myself understand how I'm feeling. Because when you're talking to another person, you do things to try to lessen the blow. I would tell my friends Ashley's pregnant, they'd be excited, and then I would say, you should also know this, XYZ. And that's a good thing. It's good to have friends to talk to like that. I think that's one of the ways that God gives grace to us. Not a saving kind of grace, but an edifying kind of grace. A grace that sanctifies us and furthers us along on the timeline of salvation, if you will. The pipeline. A lot of times God speaks to us through others, and I'm very thankful for all those who have spoken to me. And maybe I'll get to some of those things that I've been told here in a bit. But I have to stare this abyss, this nothingness of my soul that I am feeling. I have to stare at it and think through, what do I do with this? And that video is partially for this. Feel free to skip ahead if you wish to the end of the video, and maybe I'll conclude with things that are more practical or personal to you, but right now this is kind of for me. It's difficult to know how I am doing. I feel like I've lost my ability to feel what I am feeling. An analogy that came to my mind is like feet that have traveled too far. You eventually don't feel the individual rocks beneath your feet. You just feel pain. My mind has a lot of miles on it. It goes at a very fast pace. I don't love that it does that, but that's the brain that God gave me. And I've walked on so many sharp rocks that I no longer feel each of the cuts. I just know that I'm bleeding. In this modern life that we live, with work and the children I am blessed with, and marriage and church and books and TV shows and basketball and football and all these wonderful things, we can get to the point where we are just inundated with a constant data feed, and it never allows you to look inward at your processor and think, how am I doing or feeling? And this video is an attempt to war against that. It's an attempt to sit still and refuse to be distracted so that I would feel. These videos will not always be positive or encouraging. One of the next videos I'm going to upload will be a prayer or a journal entry that I prayed. That's fairly dark. And I don't care. Because I think we need to learn how to have those dark journal entries and not feel bad for them. Because I think that only then is when God meets you. More on that in a minute. I feel afraid. I don't know if this is something that I will make it through to the other side. I don't know if I'm going to have some kind of like internal snap that then permanently changes who I am substantially to where I'm some kind of like different being or different human afterwards. I don't know what kind of habits I'll develop from this. I don't know what kind of proclivities I'm going to have as a result of this. I guess I should mention that our son is still living. He's in the womb, but he's coming in about 5 weeks. And I guess I failed to tell you all that trisomy 18 is a life-limiting diagnosis, and that most babies with trisomy 18 only live a few hours. And so I will be very fortunate if I get to hold my son as he passes. That's our prayer, that we would get to hold him as he passes, that we would get to hear his cry, and that we would get to see his eyes. And that's my prayer, that I'd get to do those things. So right now, we're very thankful that he is alive. I just don't know how much longer I do have and how much time I'm going to get with him. I have related a lot to Jesus' words to take this cup from me. I've been reading Augustine's Confessions, and he talks about one of his close friends dying, and he said that his only comfort was his tears, but my tears feel far from me. I want to cry, but have been unable to cry. I can only recall 1, maybe 2 times that I've cried about this, and I want to cry more, but I don't have those tears, and I don't know why. There are days that I feel very angry, and I feel very fragile, like I'm about to break, but not necessarily break, but like I'm about to explode. I find this urge to yell. I find this urge to punch things. Just not people, but the wall or a pillow or whatever. I find this urge within me to just explode, just to feel what I think I should feel. My emotions feel very volatile. Today's been a good day, but many days are not good. And I think the hardest thing has been having to maintain appearances to others. I don't have to lie and tell everyone everything's okay, but at work, when you get a phone call from a customer, you just have to keep on working. You just have to keep on doing the things of your life, and you keep on serving at church, and you keep on, watching TV with your spouse at night, and you keep on putting your girls to bed, just like everything's normal. But deep down, it's not. Deep down, it's not. I guess the only conclusion I have to offer at this point is that I think only when you get to this point is when you really start to have God speak. And there's certain times in my life, times of despair, when I was able to discern the voice of God. I can't even describe it much beyond that. It was not audible, I'm not saying that. A kind of impression, confirmed by Scripture. I think only when you are honest with yourself and you get to this point can Scripture really speak to you. Whenever Scripture tells us to humble ourselves before God, part of that humbling is just being brutally honest. Part of that humbling is not mincing words. It's not cheerful prayers all the time. It is going to God with raw words, with a hoarse throat. And you may stumble into sin in that process. You may say things you shouldn't, but at least you are being honest and humbling yourself before Him. And I guess that's my only encouragement I have to offer at this point, is to do that. God is not fickle like we are. God is not as you and I are. He doesn't have a bunch of pent-up anger that He just has to unleash. He can handle what you say. He can handle what you say. I don't have any encouraging words to offer, I guess, outside of that. Maybe in the future I'll share some words, other words that people gave to me that really stuck with me. But this is going to be messy. And that is good. That's good. That's all I need to say. If you want to know the future of this channel and what I kind of hope to do with it in the future, I'm going to continue to vlog. I hate that word. I'm going to continue to record videos of myself talking about how I feel. But there's a number of other topics I want to cover. I want to cover topics in church history. I want to discuss the philosophy of mind, theology proper. I wrote church history twice. That means I must really care about it. Aliens, AI, parenting, economics, teachings from my church, devotional prayers, ethics, natural law, book reviews, movie reviews. And if you know me very closely, you know I've recorded a few bars that maybe at some point I'll have to release. Anyway, if you stayed the whole video, thanks. I guess smash that subscribe button if you want to hear the rest of the story. Feel free to reach out to me. Yeah. Thanks.